loves. It's your favorite country girl back with another episode of Love Kills by the Melanin Mayhem podcast. Oh, honey, Love Kills is guaranteed to have you saying, because I'm spilling all the tea on some kind of situation that went real bad, real bad. Love Kills by Melanin Mayhem brings you stories of all types of relationships and situationships and the emotionships that went hella wrong and resulted in somebody getting their water turned off permanently, if you know what I mean. I'm gonna give you the who, the what, the when, and what I think about it. I got a story. You wanna hear it? Well, here we go. This week, we headed to Baltimore, Maryland, and I gotta say, be more. Y'all don't fuck around, do you, honey? When it's bad, it's real bad. True confession time, though, I have never watched The Wire, so I had no clue of how it goes down. Turns out, Baltimore is not to be played with. No, ma'am. And today, we're gonna talk about what happens when snitching turns deadly. Normally, I say it ain't snitching if you didn't have nothing to do with the crime. Y'all have heard me say it plenty of times, but baby, telling in those cases is just assisting with an investigation. Well, today, I got a story to tell you, and it is tragic with a capital T. I'm going to tell you about a husband and wife that just wanted to clean up their neighborhood. And the neighborhood did not appreciate that shit. Now, I'm going to start out telling you about this little young nigga. His name was Darrell Brooks, and his life started out rough. He was born in 1981, and his mama, she was on that booger sugar real hard. And she would take her frustrations out on Darrell and beat that ass enough to catch a case for child abuse for that shit. So they took Darrell from his mama, and then they gave him to his daddy. Well, his daddy didn't give two shits about Darrell. So, he didn't care if he was in the house, out the house, had something to eat, didn't have nothing to eat, went to school, didn't go to school, he was checked completely out. So eventually, about 11 months later, Darrell would go back home to his mama. And life didn't get no better. At school, Darrell was being picked on because he was in special ed classes, and y'all know kids can be cruel as fuck. And then his big brother, only other boy in the family, got killed in 1993 when Darrell was 12 years old. Man, after his brother was killed, Darrell got real depressed, and they put him on medication for like 4 months, but the shit wasn't working. So then they started bouncing him around from school to school, special schools, that is, for children that had psychological issues. And this happened from like the 4th to the 7th grade, but he didn't like the schools. He didn't like none of that shit. So he started rebelling, and the streets started calling. He called quite a few juvie charges for, little armed robbery, pulling out that pistol on somebody, assaulting people. This was around September 1998, and it seems like Lil Darrell is a thug in training, right? Well, as bad as all of this sounds, some kind of way, when God got a plan for you, shit happens the way it's supposed to happen. And Darrell, where he was hanging out at in the streets, was by this community center, and he would go in and kind of, do stuff for the director. And so the director would keep him busy whenever he would come in, and then Darrell started asking for a job. And so he talked to one of his friends over at city council, and they ended up giving Darrell a job as like a clerk or a assistant, kind of like a gopher. That's a glorified gopher. Anything that needed to be done, like going to go get somebody some coffee or making some copies or passing out agendas at the meetings and stuff. That's what they had Darrell doing. But he did that shit. He would come to work in a jacket and tie, and rub shoulders with city council members and other people in, city hall government. And it actually had a pretty good effect on Darrell. The streets, he wasn't answering, I guess, to the call of the streets. He was more interested in actually doing something more positive, right? And this is a good thing, right? Darrell starts to talk like he's got purpose. He's talking about his future, wants to run for some type of governmental office, and that's a great thing. This sounds like it's going to be a success story, but y'all do know the name of the podcast, right? Love Kills. Yeah, love in all kind of forms, emotions and shit, that part. So Darrell has got his little job at City Hall, and by all accounts, it looks like Darrell is going to have a bright future, being exposed to hardworking individuals, showing him by example how he can contribute to Baltimore's success. And then there was a changing of the guard. In politics, people are voted out, and they move on, and the new people come in. And when the new people came in, Darrell was a casualty of war. They said he wasn't coming to work on time and this, that, and the third. And so he got the boot from his little city hall job in January of 2001. But even though he's not at City Hall working anymore, Darrell is still trying to hold on to positive things. His friends say he started talking about he was going to join the Coast Guard. Okay, that's good. I can go with that. He applies and they reject him. Ugh. Damn it, little Darrell. But there are still people at City Hall, and when they see Darrell out on the streets, they're still trying to mentor him and to help out, right? They even helped him get a scholarship to Baltimore City Community College. And okay, Darrell, that's a good look. But then he dropped out. And that was like the last time he really just gave a try towards anything positive. From this point forward, the bullshit starts to happen. First, it's minor petty shit again, stealing, and then he boosting cars, and then it's drug possession. Then he, again, like to pull that pistol out on the motherfucker, right? Well, every time he got caught doing something, he would go to court, and then they'd give him a slap on the wrist. They give him probation. Okay, probation. You got a probation officer, but here's the thing. Darrell never checked in with his probation officer. So even though he's on probation from the gate, he violating, and nobody has come to pick his little ass up or keep him in jail or in detention when he gets caught doing something. So the revolving door, they catch and release, catch and release, catch and release. Y'all know in them streets, get you hooked. Sometimes there's no turning back. Well, them streets will also teach your ass too. And on April 14th of 2002, Lil Darrell got the lesson of his street life. He's standing on the corner over on Broadway when some niggas in a Cadillac pulled up on him with that piece be still. Somebody where the money at. And standing on the corner at 1 o'clock in the morning can get you mistaken for a hustler. And somebody will try you if they catch you slipping. Well, Darrell was slipping like a motherfucker because he didn't have no money. He wasn't no hustler like that, right? Well, that's not what them niggas in the Cadillac wanted to hear. So they let one off in Darrell's left foot just to let him know we ain't out here playing in these streets. So Darrell, he goes, he recuperates. He's still out here trying to do what he do. Little penny stuff, but because he is not I don't even call him a drug dealer. I just don't. He's a small time in the small timest of ways, right? But even still, the people that knew him that are still in city government, they are still trying to help him out, even as late as like August 2002. But Darrell wasn't going for none of that shit. By this time, he has fallen hard for that street life, and y'all know the streets don't love nobody, and he is about to find that shit out for real. Now, if Baltimore was on this shit, like I said, Darrell wouldn't have even been on the streets in 2002, because again, he has violated his probation since 1998. But I digress. Let me tell you what happens next before Darrell's amazing crash out. So back in the early 2000s, the city of Baltimore, they started this initiative. They called it the Baltimore Believe campaign, and basically it was aimed at getting the drug dealers and the super criminals out of the city, right? They wanted the city's residents to care more about their neighborhoods, and for those that like to partake into the drugs and things, they wanted them to get some rehab in their life. And okay, that's a noble cause. Basically, if you see something, say something. Take back your neighborhoods. We can do this. I like it. And many of the residents of Baltimore, they did participate in their own ways in this initiative, right? And there was one couple, Carnell and Angela Dawson, they kind of bought into this notion. They had a family of 6 children, and they wanted better for their kids. I mean, that's a pretty big family. Big or small, everybody wants a better life for their children, right? They wanted their kids to be able to walk down the sidewalk by their house on 1401 East Preston Street and not have to dodge the drug paraphernalia and the dealers. They wanted safer streets for their children to play in, and there is nothing at all wrong with that. We all want that. I dare say all parents want that for their children. Hell, we all want that for ourselves. We all want to be able to walk outside and feel and be safe. Now, the issue at hand was that Carnell and Angela, they lived in the Oliver neighborhood, and Oliver, from what I have read, was rough. Yes, indeed. And Angela was what I would call an on-site kind of citizen. Every time she saw a drug dealer dealing drugs, a thug motherfucker doing thug shit, she called the police on site. And Angela did that a lot. Because, I mean, again, the Oliver neighborhood was full of drugs and drug dealers and thugs doing thug stuff. And it was going on everywhere. And not even just limited to that, but even the drug users. So if you were smoking a joint or a blunt or whatever, you would get the police called on you. So Angela was on her shit. She was absolutely neighborhood watch 100,000. And again, more power to you. We need more people to keep an eye out. But see, like I said, Angela did that a lot. And in a 2-year period, I'm talking from like 2000 to 2002, they made like 109 calls to the cops about what was happening right outside her door. And you know, calling 12, that ain't an unusual thing. I mean, as long as there have been drug dealers, there's been somebody in the hood that called the cops on them, right? Y'all remember the song? Biggie rapped about it. To all the people above the buildings that I was hustling in front of that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. Y'all remember he said that? It happens. So, you know, yeah, it's a thing. But, you know, normally it doesn't escalate into a siege type of situation. And I don't know, maybe Baltimore is different because normally you can call the cops and remain anonymous. You can. But in Angela's case, everybody seemed to know for a fact that she was the one doing the calling and the telling. And to say the neighborhood drug dealers and thugs was not pleased with Angela's good telling ass is an understatement. Once they found out it was her doing all the calling and telling, the drug dealers and thugs got real aggressive towards her and her family. And Darrell Brooks in particular, you know, our young man that used to work at City Hall, he happened to be their neighbor, the little penny drug dealing boy. And he gets a lot of the calls to the police about his activities right outside his house, which happens to be next door to Angela and Carnell. Well, again, Darrell ain't no big time drug dealer by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he the type that'll buy an 8-ball and break that shit down kind of nickel, you know, buy a half and break it down in nickel bags. Still selling nickels in 2025. If this was, you know, whatever, not the point. But because he was such a small time, I don't know why he was so mad, you know, because it ain't like you losing no real money, little broke boy. But I digress. And even though there was a lot of hostility towards the Dawsons, that did not stop them from living and loving in their neighborhood. They were social people. I mean, they had a big ass family, so they would be out and about. They worked, you know, they were, you know, citizens and they took part in their neighborhood. But shit was hella tense, even though they were all about making the neighborhood better. Now, please understand, every day, the Dawson family, specifically Angela and Carnell, because the children, they weren't responsible for the things that their parents did. So it seems like the neighborhood didn't really bother them per se. But Angela and Carnell, you know, they had to be ready to throw down in them streets because the drug dealers and the thugs were antagonizing them something awful. Well, let me tell you how awful it got. In March of 2001, specifically March 21st, a phone call to 911, Carnell on the line, and you can hear him talking to somebody, and it's like he's saying something to the effect of, you need to get out from over here, and then the person is like, you can't tell me to leave the corner, and then you hear Carnell say something like, well, you ain't got to pull your gun on me just because I don't want you to sell dope around my children. He's on 911. The call with the operator while all this is going down, so this is recorded. And so the police do come and they arrest this guy. He's a 40-year-old. His name is Joseph Bullock. They got him for menacing Carnell as well as second-degree assault for having that gun and threatening to use it, right? Gave him probation, but again, popped him back out on the streets. And now here goes somebody else that's mad because they done had a run-in with one of the Dawson elders. Well, that following month in April, they kind of stepped up their aggression a little bit because it's like a hornet's nest. So now they're not just on the corner, they're standing on the Dawson stoop. You know, they have a row house, so they're on their stoop selling dope. You know what I'm saying? They hanging out smoking and drinking and shit on these people's stoop. And so, you know, Carnell, of course, he's a man, he's a black man, he got to defend and stand up for his family's honor. So he running outside and he trying to chase these niggas off with phone in hand with 911 on the line and a bat in the other hand. But it didn't stop. It kept escalating. Like, they're playing this terrible game of chicken and nobody wants to blink first. And it's getting bad, y'all. Like, August 23rd, 2001, Angela walking down the street and one of them young niggas slapped the taste out her mouth. I'm talking about cold cocked her shit back to the ancestors, honey. All she was doing was walking down the street. This was a little young nigga named Jonathan Colbert. Now, I feel sorry for Angela. I do. Because nobody deserves to get a smackdown just walking down the sidewalk. But I really feel bad for Carnell because it seems like Carnell did his share of calling, don't get me wrong, but Angela did a lot of calling. And you can't have your wife getting jumped on and slapped around in the street. You got to stand up for her honor. So Carnell got to go out here and try to fight this little young nigga and, you know, they're calling the police. And it's just a bad situation for their home life. This is where they live. This is where they lay their heads. Their entire family of 8. Because remember, they got 6 kids. And them two, that's 8 people in this house, right? And they all got to live here. The children got to walk. They got to go to school. This is a really bad look that every time they catch you on the street, it's a whole ass problem, right? And Carnell, every night I gotta prove my love. Like, you can't just have dinner with the family when a nigga just slapped the taste out your wife's mouth. You got to do something about that shit. What the fuck? You got to go do something. But he was no match. He is one man against the entire neighborhood of people who deal in the thug, drug dealer type of situation. So, you know, a few weeks later, after Jonathan done did what he did, where after they called the police on him, Jonathan is back and he busting out windows. He busting out windows while the family is standing in the window looking at him busting out the windows. Do y'all see the escalation of it all? Like, do y'all see this? The nigga didn't even flinch. He stood right there in a window that didn't have glass no more, looking at these niggas outside his house talking cash shit. Man, that's stress on stress on stress on stress. And they still just getting started. Now, that following month in September of 2001, again, Angela is walking down the sidewalk and another one of them young niggas run up on her and bust her in the chest with a bottle. Like, what? Man, it's too much. It's too much. But sometimes it wasn't just the young niggas running up on them. Sometimes Angela and Carnell would invite trouble, because another day, not too long after Angela got her shit all bust up, her and Carnell, they walking outside and they come upon some dudes that are smoking a blunt on the corner. And instead of minding the business that pays them and keeping it pushing, they decided to step to the smoke session and ask the thugs who was smoking a blunt on the corner, who wasn't paying them no attention this time, to put that shit out. You playing with the hornet's nest now. I'm with you when you're right. I'm with you always. But goddamn, don't invite trouble. If they ain't looking at you, don't look at them. Baby, that night, they came back to busting out windows, and now they sitting out smoking and putting their shit out on your stoop. I mean, the escalation of it all. And all they keep doing is calling the cops, and then the cops will come. The cops will clear their stoop, and then they'll sit there for a minute. But you know, you don't have personal security from a police officer. Eventually, they gotta leave. And the minute the cops left, they were back doing what the fuck they were doing, menacing and terrorizing this family. I mean, they were literally under siege. Oh my God. And this shit goes on every day, all day. A motherfucker is either fucking with you or fucking with your shit. I would have moved. Ooh, I would have moved. Period. Point blank. I would have moved. But not the Dawsons. They stuck it out, and they hoping and they praying that better days are coming. But sometimes you have got to read the writing on the wall, honey. You got to look at them tea leaves and see what they're telling you. It's time to go. You in danger, Molly. Y'all, the escalation is about to just go on like level 10. October 1st, 2002, Carnell calls 911 and he is begging for assistance because these niggas are surrounding his house. Like, they are fixing to come do some shit. They done busted out all the windows. You know, how it's described, it sounds like a scene straight out of The Purge. Everybody scared. Angela shook. You know, yeah, she been calling up the police or whatnot, but she didn't think it was gonna go down like all this. When I say them drug dealers and them thugs had them people's house surrounded, I mean, they had nowhere to run. And these people outside their house say they meant business. But you know, thankfully, Baltimore Police Department, they didn't tarry. They came with the quickness and they moved the crowd. But y'all know thugs are not scared of no goddamn police. And clearly they wasn't scared of the Baltimore police. So again, while they did move on, they let it be known while they was moving on that we'll be back. I would have... Man, let me tell you something. Officer, just give me 1 second to grab one or two things. We gonna leave together. What? Surrounding my house? Oh, no. But they didn't leave. 2 days later, on October 3rd, 2002, Carnell back on the main line. This time, he is asking for assistance because somebody just tried to set their house on fire. Yes. Somebody threw 2 fucked up Molotov cocktails through the window. 2. They just didn't know how to build them, clearly, because 2 Molotov cocktails actually came through the window, but they didn't set the house on fire. You know, but the family, they know that this is in retaliation for them calling the cops. They know it is. And while they were able to get out and nobody was hurt in this incident, I know you gotta be scared. I don't give a fuck what. Motherfucker throw some fire through your goddamn window and it don't goddamn actually take everybody out and you see that shit and you live through it. You gonna be scared. I don't give a fuck what you say. You gonna be scared. And so I know they were scared, but clearly they were not scared enough because the police, they offered to relocate them somewhere safe. We're gonna take you out this house. We will put you up somewhere, but you do not have to live here. These people are going to try to hurt you again. And Carnell was like, nope, they're not gonna run me out my house. Angela, nope, they're not gonna run us out our house. This our house. We gonna stay here. And ooh, girl, I'm sorry. The escalation of it all. What you gonna do next? No. And y'all gonna pay for me to go? That's usually the hardest part. No. But that's exactly what they said. No. And so then here come Carnell's sister. He had a sister named Alice. And she was like, hey, bro, well, I tell you what, if you don't want to go, just let the children come over to my house. I got them. I got y'all. You know, y'all don't have to be here. And once again, Carnell was like, you know, I'm a man. I got this. And I'm going to protect my children just fine. Thank you, sis, but no thank you. And all I can think of is, I don't know if y'all know Kenny Rogers, but I dibble and dabble in country music for real. And he got a line. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. It's time to run. High step. At this point, just grab your pocketbook. Social Security card, everything else, we can get something new. No, it's time to go. But I'm sorry, the escalation of it all, it is too much for me. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. If I did stay in the house, I promise you, I would never call the police on nobody for nothing. I wouldn't. 911, we would have to block that number. We ain't even calling that shit no more. No fucking way. These people just tried to burn my shit down with me in it. But you know what? Carnell, he got big brass balls and his heart don't beat no fear because the very next day, October 4th, 2002, he was back on the main line, but not to Jesus, but to 911. And he said, quote, I'm at 1401 East Preston. You know, my house got firebombed last night, you know, cocktail. These guys are back around the corner in front of my house smoking reefer. The same ones I've been having with, sir. So they're not trying to get in. They're not trying to throw nothing in. They just literally sitting out here fucking with you by just sitting out here smoking a blunt, something that's gonna keep them calm. Leave them folks alone. Leave them people alone. But nope, he's back on the main line. Sir, if you don't leave these niggas alone and mind your business, what they doing outside don't have no bearing on what you doing inside no more, period. I'm sorry. I don't like this, and this is not going to end well. And y'all, it didn't. It did not end well. Just 2 weeks later, this back and forth would come to a tragic end. On October 16th, 2002, Brooks went back to finish the job. This little dumbass nigga went to the Dawson house at around 2 o'clock in the morning. He kicked in the front door of their row house and he went in that bitch and he doused the first floor with gasoline. And then he set that motherfucker on fire. And the fire wasn't no joke this time. It engulfed the entire front of the Dawson house. It engulfed the entire first floor of the house. I mean, you go up the steps, the door you walk in, all of that. That's the door to get out. That's back door or front door. That's where you gotta go. It's 2 a.m. The Dawsons are upstairs asleep. The only way for them to get out is to come down. There's nowhere for them to go. And this fire engulfs the entire house. And by the time the smoke detectors went off, it was too late. The fire was all in the stairs, first floor gone. And so the family, they cannot get out unless they walk through the fire. Y'all, this fire blazed for almost an hour before Baltimore Fire Department was able to put it out. And by then, it was too fucking late. The entire family died except for one daughter, 18-year-old Lakeisha Bowell. She was not home when the fire was set. That's the only reason she didn't die. And actually, Carnell, daddy and husband, he lived for a minute. You see, Carnell jumped out of a window from the second floor and they found him crispy and unconscious because, you know, he hit that pavement, and while he didn't go splat, you jump from the second floor of anything, that concrete will catch you all right, and it ain't gonna be nothing nice. And so Carnell would die in the hospital a week later from his injuries sustained from the fall. But on the day of the fire, October 16th, wife and head snitch of the family, Miss Angela, her and her children died. 9-year-old twins, Keith and Kevin, 10-year-old Carnell Jr., 12-year-old Juan Ortiz, and 14-year-old Wanda Ortiz. A whole ass family gone. And why? Because they called the police. They were snitching. And so they had to pay for that with their lives. Wow. And in ways to go, burning down my shit with me in it, that's a horrible way. Because what? Smoke inhalation and then I'm crispity crunchity. Mess. That punk ass Darrell is arrested quickly though, because even though snitching is frowned upon, motherfuckers do that shit and do it well because somebody dropped a dime on Darrell punk ass. They snatched his ass up a couple of hours after they put that fire out. And that's crazy. The neighbor, and he confessed to it all. He did. They put Darrell face on the news as the motherfucker who killed the family of 7, and damn if a robbery victim don't recognize Darrell as a motherfucker that made him lay it down. Yeah. Back in September, 1 month before he killed these people, September 12, 2002, Darrell and another little young nigga, they pulled that blicky out on a pizza delivery man, laid him down, and took his tip money. Dude didn't have but $60, but they took it. It's definitely not worth losing his life over. I mean, he gave his wallet right on up. But you know, he didn't know who did it until he seen Darrell's picture on the news for killing a family of 7. And so he quickly calls the police and was like, hey, you remember that crime I reported? That dude y'all got for killing the people? That's who did it. Dumbass. Dumbass. So 21-year-old Darrell is charged with 7 counts of murder, 7 counts of arson, robbery with a deadly weapon, and assault for the pizza man. But, you know, because it's an arson case, the Baltimore prosecutors want to turn this case over to the feds so Darrell can get extra dealt with, if you know what I'm saying. Because, you know, if it had stayed a state case, Darrell little punk ass might see the light of day one day, and we can't have that. But, you know, a federal case comes with a tougher jury and a way worse punishments, right? And they don't take time out for good behavior, so we can keep him in custody for as long as possible. Well, in December of 2002, his case is indeed turned over to the feds, and he was scheduled to go to court in September of 2003. But instead of going to trial, they ended up working out a plea deal to take the death penalty off the table in exchange for life without parole. Well, you know, now that he done had a little time to think, oh, Darrell is so sorry now. Oh, all he wanna do is die. Because, you know, he was actually friends or friendly with some of the Dawson children. children. You know, they all lived on the same block. They were neighbors, and he knew them kids, and you just killed them. And now you sorry. I didn't mean to do nothing to them. I just wanted to hurt their mama. You see, that is stupidity at its finest. Little boy, young man, if you set fire to the house that your friend's mama lives in, and they are home because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, because, you know, they got school in the morning, or they gonna die too. Just young and dumb. And so now he up here talking about he pleading guilty because he felt so bad for what he had done. And even though he just wanted to die because that's what he deserved, he didn't want to take the family through that drama of a trial and the appeal process. I want to spare y'all. I'm looking out for y'all feelings. Motherfucker. So he pled guilty to arson, resulting in the deaths of 7 people. And when he stood before the judge and the family, he had to tell them exactly what he did that night. And it is at this moment I feel for sure he knows the magnitude of what it meant for that family. How fucked up what he did was, and how he was gonna spend the rest of his natural life in jail. And that shit broke him down. It did. He was sick. Ooh, honey, he was sick. But he was respectful. You know, he apologized to the judge even because he had his back turned to the judge, and he told the judge, I ain't trying to be disrespectful by having my back to you, but when I make this statement, I want to make it directly to the surviving members of the Dawson family and, talk directly to them. And then this motherfucker said, I thought the only way I could pay for my actions was with my own life. Now he crying and shit. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I will never, ever, ever, as long as there is breath in my lungs, I will never forgive myself. I don't think I deserve life in prison. I thought I deserved nothing but death. But then I thought, no, the pain's got to stop somewhere. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it. I swear. Nigga, sit your swearing ass down somewhere. Don't nobody give a fuck about that. You did that shit. And now you got to stand in that shit and be on that shit. You killed 7 people. You set fire to somebody's house that you knew was inside. Fuck that apology and fuck you too. As disrespectfully as I possibly can be. He admitted to trying to set their house on fire 2 weeks earlier. Those 2 Molotov cocktails that didn't turn out right. That was Darrell. He had to admit all that shit. And he says the reason that he did it was because Mrs. Dawson was always snitching on people. Jesus. Oh my God. Fix it, Jesus. U.S. District Judge Marvin Garbus, he sentenced Darrell to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, I guess if you got to think of a good thing that came out of this tragic situation, the Dawson home at 1401 East Preston Street, they turned it into a community center. They call it the Dawson Family Safe Haven. They did that in 2012. But, ooh, child, I just want to slap the shit out this young man. Well, he ain't young no more. This nigga 34 years old this year. But what good would that do? Apparently in Baltimore, it is common for criminals to intimidate anybody that get in their way. And, I lost a couple of brain cells while researching this case. There was a video that they said came out not too long after the Dawson arson murder. And the video is called Stop Snitching. Ugh. Made by some idiots in Baltimore. That was like 7 minutes of my life that I will never get back. And I just couldn't go no further than the 7 minutes. That was as much as I could do. But basically, it was just all about the glorification of some young niggas and what they wanted to do to people who snitch and calling out people that they thought were snitches and things like that and how they deal with snitches. Ugh. It was a lot. It was a lot. And as someone who used to didn't know how to back down, I get it. This is my home. This is my shit. This is my neighborhood. I ain't going down without a fight. You know what I'm saying? I get it. I get it. But at the same damn time, when the retaliation of it all starts coming down to people in the neighborhood busting out my damn windows and trying to barbecue my ass, I'm gonna blink first. I mean, you gotta assume the worst can and will happen and then act accordingly. I'd rather be overcautious and safe than overconfident and fucked up, or my overconfidence gets one of my kids fucked up. I couldn't live with myself. I absolutely couldn't live with myself. So sometimes you gotta do the hard thing, right? Them niggas in Baltimore, they don't play. Like, this shit ain't just started. And as natives of Baltimore, I feel like Angela and Carnell, they should have known it. They should have known that this could only get really, really bad for them. And I hate this case. Like, this is like, fuck, man. And again, we don't victim bash, but god damn, this was if not preventable, seeable, right? I feel like you can see this when this is not innuendo where somebody is just talking shit to you every time you pass. These motherfuckers is actually laying on of hands. They is actually fucking your shit up in your face. I mean, it ain't even like they slashed your tires in the middle of the night and you didn't see who did it. They doing this shit in your face. No. Let me say, I'm telling you, researching this story, it had me ready to pack up and move my shit out right now, and I'm safe at my house. Ain't nobody fucking with me. Again, you gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away, and you got to know when to run. Jesus, that might be my new tagline. If I didn't have to pay Kenny Rogers' ass a grip, I probably would. I'm gonna tell y'all, like, I'm talking shit, but I'm really for real about this. I moved to Atlanta back in, almost 25 years ago. And the reason I moved is because my hometown was just economically depressed and the crime rate was soaring. Like, everybody was going to jail. Everybody's kids was going to jail. It wasn't nothing to do for the children to keep them occupied. And they were just falling one by one. And if they wasn't getting locked up, they was getting fucked up. And I just didn't want that for my son. I had a 4-year-old black male child, and I did not want that for him. And even though this was my hometown that I loved and I was cool, it was fine for me, I wanted better for my son. And so I packed my shit up. I didn't give myself time to think. I just got up and I left. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my whole entire life. I didn't want my son to end up with a mugshot or a prison ID number or a grave headstone. I just up and left. And sometimes you gotta do the hard thing. I'm not saying it's not difficult to uproot your life, but difficult is not impossible. It's not. Yeah, leaving your home is hard. Leaving your surroundings, your hood, everything that you know and love is hard. But sometimes you gotta do the hard thing for the betterment of you and or your family. The Dawsons were like many of us, proud and an unshakable faith that it couldn't get any worse. And even when they were offered help to be relocated by the police, they declined. Even when family tried to help, they declined. And I get it, I swear I do, because I am president of the I Got This Club. But knowing when you in over your head and being able to look it head on and see and accept that I can't win this fight, or somebody else might. What did T.I. say? You won this fight, but you lost the war. Like, no, guys, and I don't care what kind of situation it is. If it's taking your peace, you gotta go. If it's taking your health, you gotta go. You gotta try something different. As adults, that shit is scary. Ooh, it's scary sometimes, but we can do this. You got this. Listen to me tell you, just rewind this. You got 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 this. Because this is not unique. This is just another sad, tragic tale. Now, Darrell Brooks is federal inmate number 40578-037, and he is serving his life sentence at USP Hazleton in Brucetown Mills, West Virginia. And that, New Nation, is the story of Darrell Brooks and how he burned alive an entire family because he said they was snitching. Ooh, I can't wait till we talk about this on social media. You can find me anywhere by typing in Melanin Mayhem Podcast or Melanin Mayhem PC on IG, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Speaking of, if you have not joined the Facebook discussion group yet, I don't know why you are keeping me waiting to grace me with your presence, honey. Get your booty in gear, please. And thank you. Well, y'all, until the next story ends in tears and tragedy and somebody's relationship takes a hit, y'all stay safe and play that shit smart. And remember, love and emotions will make you do some crazy shit. Don't get caught up and fuck around and be on an episode of Love Kills. I will see you guys in 2 Fridays for another episode of a Love Kills situation. But you know you got me every Wednesday, honey, for your dose of a Melanin Mayhem. Until then, thank you so much for streaming, and the country girl is out of here.
Woo-wee, Nana, you did that.